Is it possible to write, publish, and hit bestseller with your own book in a matter of a month? Now, I actually did it right over here when I was 20 years old. I was in university. I was working a part-time job. I was also graduating with 2 majors and trying to keep my social life afloat. But I had the goal and the dream of becoming an author. And of course, I thought that you had to be super skilled or like writing a book would take you years and years. But I actually wrote and published my own book in 30 days. And not only did it rank number 1 in more than one category, I actually got featured on live TV about it
today. But Sabah Ali, of course, this awesome book that you wrote, it is Enrolling in Confidence. First of all, what makes you tick? Because you started doing these things at rather young ages. You're a senior at ISU right now.
Yeah, so I'm a senior. So it actually started back in January of this year. I made the goal to become a best-selling author, and I wanted to do it in 30 days, actually.
And when that happened, not only did it explode my brand, but I got so many more clients, I built my following, and it just overall was one of the biggest milestones in my life. So of course you clicked on this video because you want to write your own book, and you've probably dreamt of doing this for quite some time. So in this video, I'm going to go through the exact steps of how to actually write your own book in 30 days. And of course, if you don't want to do it that fast, don't worry, you can still watch this video and kind of create your own timeline and deadline. But I'm going to go through exactly what I did to just get this done, okay? Because we're not procrastinating, we're not waiting. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what your book topic is, how to write it, a deadline of when it's going to be done, and of course, maybe even how to hit bestseller with it. Now, we have about 7 steps I'm going to go through, and I gotta say, step number 5 was probably one of the most important steps that actually allowed me to write and publish my book in 30 days. And without step number 5, I probably wouldn't have been able to actually do it. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Sabah Ali, and this channel is all about helping you build the most unforgettable life by being your own boss and make your own money so you can actually live life, because that is what life is about. And if you're not subscribed, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We are on the journey of reaching 100,000 subscribers and family, so make sure to subscribe if you're all about just honestly betting your life, making more money, hitting your goals, and everything else in between. So let's get into it. The first thing that I did was actually write down a goal and a deadline of when I wanted to get the book done. Now, back when I was in university, I was like, I just want to get something out of there. And I thought to myself, if I'm writing a book, I already know all the information. I don't have to research it. I don't have to like Google it. I don't have to spend hours and hours and hours trying to figure out what to actually write about. So for you, it's probably the same thing, especially if you want to create a book that's not like super big. Mine's like actually pretty thin, as you guys can see, but I first made the deadline of actually writing the book, because we already know if we don't actually put a deadline on a certain goal, we're not going to actually get it done. So of course, me being like the overambitious person I am, I'm like, okay, I'm going to write and publish my book in 30 days. So I set the goal of doing it in 30 days. For you guys, you can do the exact same thing. I know you can, or maybe you set the goal of like 60, 90 days, or even if you want to do 6 months, you can do that too. And the reason why this is so important, once again, is because not only is it going to give you the push to actually get it done, but when we get into the next steps, you'll see the process of writing the book within the deadline, it's going to become much more easier. So that way you're not just like waking up every single day and you're like, okay, let's write my book today. And then you don't write it for a few weeks, and then like months go by and you're like, oh yeah, remember when I started that book but I never actually completed it? Yeah, we're not doing that here. So the first thing you want to do is write down a deadline of when you want to get your book done. And even if you want to pause this video, you want to pull out your phone, you want to take a look at, the date, the calendar, the timeline, when you want to get this done, put it in your calendar right now. Now, after you write down the deadline, the second thing that I did and what you want to do is think of a topic about the book. Now, odds are, since you are watching this video and you want to write a book, you probably already have an idea of what you want to write about. But I know for me, when I had the thought and the goal of becoming an author, I didn't know exactly what I was going to write about. So I thought about, what am I really good at and what do most people want to learn? And for me back then, when I was in college and university, it was about building confidence, right? So my entire book was about enrolling in confidence, how to live the lifestyle you want in college. So inside of here is basically all the principles that I used when I was, in my high school, teenage years, now, going into college, university, and then graduating, all of the principles I used to really build up my confidence and my self-esteem. So you want to think of a topic of maybe what you're really good at, something that you find interesting, maybe you already have a lot of knowledge and information about. And if you have no clue what you want to write a book about, but you just know you're a really good writer, even just go on Amazon, type in even like a genre of book and go through other people's and see if you can get inspired of different ideas of what you can create a book on. And then of course we also have like ChatGPT. You can literally ask ChatGPT, give me like 20 ideas of writing a book on like soccer or makeup, anything that you're interested in. So after I came up with the topic of my book, the third thing that I did was actually brain dump all of the information, all of the steps, all the stories, all the lessons, all the principles that I wanted to put into the book. The one thing that I was kind of like afraid about going into the process of writing a book, especially in 30 days, was how am I going to be able to fit everything in like an organized way? So instead of me sitting there and trying to organize my thoughts right away, I first brain dumped everything. So when I say brain dump everything, literally take out a piece of paper or a document on your laptop and write down every single thing you want to put in this book that comes to mind. Now, of course, like you don't have to organize it right away, and I don't recommend organizing it right away because it's just going to feel overwhelming. And of course, you're going to come up with ideas as you're writing the book too, but maybe just spend 30 minutes, an hour doing this, and maybe even do it over the course of a few days, because of course, if you sit down in one day and you do it for an hour, all of the thoughts might not come up right away. But if you do it over the course of maybe like a weekend, you're going to have literally pages of, once again, topics, stories, ideas, lessons, principles, everything that you want to share inside of the book. And I'm going to say it again, even though I probably already said it like 3 or 4 times, do not get overwhelmed by this and do not start organizing it, okay? We're not going to do it quite yet because the first step is literally just brain dumping every single thing. And during this process too, you want to ask yourself, if I was reading this book, what would I want to know, right? And asking yourself those type of questions will even help you come up with more ideas of what you can brain dump when you're doing this process. Now, after I did my brain dump, the fourth step that I took was basically, once again, now taking everything that I laid out on that document and organizing it into steps, which AKA would turn into my chapters. So during this process, you want to logically think about, once again, if someone was reading a book, you usually start off with like the first principle or the first story someone needs to know in order to get to like the destination and the end result someone's trying to get. Now, of course, how you do this is going to be different depending on like the type of book you're actually writing. So of course, if you're writing like a storybook, it's going to be different in terms of chapters. The chapters are basically going to be building up the story versus a book that's more like informational, trying to solve a problem. That's basically going to be the steps to getting to the solution. Or if you're writing a book like mine, where it's more so just like principles and lessons in each and every single book, the way I did it was I basically, once again, categorized it on what someone needs to know first in order for them to build the foundation of building really good confidence, all the way up until like kind of like the higher level skills you need to be doing in order to build confidence. And once again, this part, super simple, super easy. Do not overthink it. Once again, if you were a reader of your own book, what would make the most logical sense when you're putting all of the topics that you wrote down into steps, aka chapters? Now, step number 4 is probably one of like literally, it saved my life in writing this book in 30 days. After you write out the steps into chapters, now you're going to go even deeper into structuring out each chapter. And I do this with structuring out a hook, a story, and a lesson. So when I was doing the brain dump method, I knew I wanted to share specific stories. So of course, in my document, I had so many stories that I wanted to share. But of course, like I didn't know where to fit what story. So in step number 5, when I had my chapters all basically outlined out, I started to take each story and start to plug it into what chapter I wanted to share that story. So why this really helped me when it came to the writing process was I basically didn't just sit there with like a blank sheet of paper, a blank document, starting to like figure out what to say in this chapter, I actually had a hook. I wrote down what I want to start that chapter with. I wrote down what the story was, and then I also wrote down the lesson. So every single chapter of a book, it has some sort of structure, whether you think it does or it doesn't. If you read a lot, you probably have picked up on this. If you don't read a lot, maybe you haven't noticed this, but every single chapter kind of starts with like a hook, kind of like an introduction. Then it either goes into like a framework, a topic, a story, then it goes into a lesson and or a takeaway. So once again, depending on the type of topic, the type of book you're actually creating, make sure you have a little bit of a structure with each chapter, because you don't want to go into the writing process not knowing, once again, exactly how to get started, so you don't get stuck and you don't get writer's block when you actually go into the writing process. And also under this step, if you have other, once again, like topics, stories, lessons, like principles, anything else you want to add to the book, just put a little note under each chapter just so you remember to add it in there. And also keep in mind, like throughout the days, just randomly, if you're out to dinner or you're at the gym, you're going on a walk and you come across an idea, pull out your phone and write it down under that chapter. Okay, because I promise you, you're not going to remember it. And then when you're writing, you're going to be like, oh, what was that thing that I wanted to include in my book? Okay, so don't do that. I always had my document like on my phone. So as I was, once again, just like out doing life, if something came up, I always made sure to write it down. Now, after number 5, it's basically going into the writing process. So step number 6 is starting to write, but more specifically, blocking out dates and creating mini deadlines for you to actually complete the book within the overall deadline that you created. For me, of course, I wrote the deadline of getting my book done in 30 days. So before I ever even started writing, once again, I had everything outlined. I actually went into my calendar and I wrote mini deadlines every single week of how many chapters I wanted to complete. So I don't actually remember how many chapters I have in this book that I wrote. So I had 11 chapters. So I had to make sure every single week I got 2 to 3 chapters done in order for me to hit my deadline of writing and publishing this book in 30 days. So that's what you want to do too. If you have 10 chapters or 15 chapters or 20 chapters, take a look at your deadline and start to write out mini deadlines. I did it every single Friday, like by the end of Friday, or maybe it was Sunday. Honestly, I can't remember if it was Friday or Sunday. I think it was Friday, if I remember correctly. I wanted to get done like chapters 1 to 2 or like 3 to 5. So do the same thing for yourself. And then also go into your calendar and block out a few hours, maybe every single day, or a few hours every like other day for you to write the actual book. Okay, and once again, the reason why we're doing this is because we want to get it done. We want to get it completed, right? And this video is all about like getting your book like written, done, published, and launched. Okay, so if you have the goal to write your book this year, to get it out there, maybe you put the deadline of 3 months or maybe 6 months, still do this process because it's really going to help you write the book and get it done. Now, when you go into the actual writing process, just know you will get writer's block. Okay, I remember writing my book when I was in university. I would go to my college library on campus and I would be writing my book for like maybe 45 minutes to an hour, and then all of a sudden my brain would just go blank. So when that would happen, I would not push myself because I just know like if I sit there trying to push myself to write when nothing's coming up, it's like not gonna work. So I always took a break, or if I scheduled out 2 hours to write, I could only write for an hour. I just left it that way. And then the following day or maybe later that night, if I was like, ooh, I feel like writing, I would just go into the writing process. You want to keep in mind when you are writing your book, you are the author, okay? You are the prize. You know the information. So you don't have to sit there and think about, oh, like what's the perfect thing I need to say? Or I need to come up with this like new philosophy that nobody's ever heard about before. Like you don't have to do that. The reason why you're writing the book is because you have something really valuable to say. So really tapping into that, tapping into your best-selling author identity is really going to help you get into the flow of writing. So after you finish writing your book, step number 7, and what I did after I was completely done with my book, and I actually, like, to be honest, I think I actually wrote my book in like 3 weeks because I spent a week getting someone to edit my book and then creating like the title and the cover. So I actually wrote my book a lot faster than 30 days, which I know is insane. But step number 7 is you want to get an editor to actually edit your book. Now, this can be a friend if you want to, look over it if they're really good. at like writing and editing and making sure everything looks fine. I actually hired someone from Upwork to edit my book. So she was amazing. I honestly just found her by doing a little bit of research, putting out a project, and within a like a day, honestly, I had an editor and she did amazing. And she also actually formatted my book for print and then also for online. So people can buy my book, of course, physically, but they can also buy it like Kindle version too. So she edited my book, she formatted my book, so that way I didn't have to do any of that. And honestly, I don't remember how much I paid her because I wrote this book, geez, almost like 7 years ago, which is crazy, but it wasn't a whole lot. It was maybe like a few $100s. Okay, so you can find some pretty affordable editors to edit your book and to even format your book so that way you don't have to do it yourself. Now, step number 7 and 8 can kind of like merge into one, because to be honest, I was doing step number 8 while I was still writing my book, because once again, I wanted to publish it in 30 days. So step number 8 was all about coming up with the title, the subtitle, the cover, the illustrations, the images. So one of my good friends, Paul, he actually created the illustration for my book. He designed the entire book. This is actually a silhouette of me when we were doing like a photo shoot. I'm like, oh, it'd be cool to actually do a silhouette. He, you know, added the text and then of course the entire back of the book too. So once again, if you don't have like a friend to actually do your illustrations and your cover, you can find someone on Upwork, on Fiverr to do it for you. But that's step number 8, is coming up with, of course, the cover, the title, the subtitle, and everything else that goes into the actual like surface of the book. And one thing I also forgot to mention is step number 8, I also just made sure anything else that I need to put inside of the book I had done. So for me, for an example, if you're writing more of like a personal development, self-help, even like biography type of book, sometimes people have forwards in their book, which is basically someone writing a few pages about your book and basically why it's amazing, why it's really good, and why people should read it. So I had one of my mentors actually write my forward for the book, and I told him, you know, I asked him if he wanted to do it well before I actually even started writing the book. He said yes. So you just want to make sure if you have someone writing like a forward for the book, that's done, that's completed, and you know, just make sure like grammatically everything looks good for that too. And that is basically it. You are done with your book because you have it written, you have it edited, you have the cover, you have everything done, and the last thing you really need to do is honestly just upload it on Amazon if you are using Amazon KDP or you're using some other platform to actually publish the book. Now, I wanted this video to be specifically about how to write your book, but if you guys want me to do another in-depth video on how I actually, like, I'll screen share and show you guys how I uploaded the book, how I self-published on Amazon, and then how I also hit bestseller within honestly a few hours of launching my book on Amazon. Comment below, let me know if you want me to do those videos, and I'll make sure to do, I'll probably do 2 separate videos, one on actually how to self-publish your book and one on how to hit Amazon bestseller with your book. So comment below, let me know if you guys want me to do it, and you already know I will. So I am so excited for you to write and publish your book. It's honestly like, when I think about everything that I've done in my life, writing a book is probably one of my biggest milestones today. Just like to think and to look at this physical book that I am an author, like my name is right here, my face is on the back of the book. Like, it is just honestly one of the most incredible feelings. So I'm excited for all of you. Comment below, let me know when you're gonna have your book done by. And as always, if you guys like this video, make sure to like, share, and don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, I love you guys so much, and don't forget to stay unforgettable.